It is a Friday edition of Locked On Grizzlies, a Black Friday edition to be precise. The day after Thanksgiving, Americans are out and about buying, and trying to sell. I'm going to do exactly that with the Memphis Grizzlies at this point of the campaign, plus preview tonight's NBA Cup game against the New Orleans Pelicans. It's a Friday Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It is I, Joe Mullinax. It is Friday. You have got to get down on Friday, as the wise philosopher Rebecca Black once said. Fun. Looking forward to the weekend. We are indeed partying on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies, and I am so glad that you're with us wherever you are checking out the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. As proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe. Do all of those things over at Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, literally anywhere you get a podcast. Make myself and DeMichael Cole, my co-host, part of your Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time that an episode drops, and each and every time that a newsletter drops. Again, we are happily putting out newsletter content each and every day as well now. I'm really enjoying the newsletter. We're one of the top newsletters in the network, which is awesome to say, given the knock on Memphis always being a small market. To have the level of success we've had early on, hopefully it'll keep going. Go to LockedOnDaily.com, subscribe to the free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter, where you'll get links to any episode that you'd like. Plus, you'll get written words from me about topics from that episode that you are about to hopefully listen to. Today's episode is going to lean into the time, right? You're probably out and about today trying to take advantage of some holiday deals. Santa Claus was seen at the end of the big parade yesterday. He has arrived. The holiday season is officially here. I am one of those people that very much judges you. Yes, you. I judge you if you started your Christmas stuff before the big guy in red showed up at the end of the parade in New York yesterday. That's just me. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on X if you agree with that. I'm not putting up Christmas trees in October. That's absurd. I'm not doing it. I'm not trying to listen to Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You on November 12th, right? It was just Veterans Day. Let's be respectful here, people. Christmas has finally arrived. And this is the first official shopping day. It is known as Black Friday, because this is the day, the start of the time of year, where businesses that are retail in nature get into the black. So it felt like a good time for me to lean into that and do a buying and selling episode before we preview today's big game because it's the Cup, brother, big game, brother, against the New Orleans Pelicans. But before we preview, brother, because it's the Cup, let's talk about some of the good that we've seen from this Memphis Grizzlies team so far this season and what I think will stick around. 12-7, fourth in the Western Conference, only about a game out of third, which is really fun to say out loud, considering the fact that Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Ja Morant have only played 3 games together this entire season. I feel like that standing in the Western Conference is one to buy into. If you remember correctly, I think I had Memphis either 4th or 5th. It might have been 5th, but I had them exactly in this range going into the season in terms of where I thought they would fit going into a potential return to the postseason. So almost 20 games into the season, game number 20 being played tonight. I'm looking pretty smart a quarter of the way through. And again, that is with consistent absences from especially Ja Morant, but Desmond Bane, both in terms of injury and in terms of poor play, has not really been himself much of the year either. So the first thing I'm buying is Memphis staying in the top 5 in the Western Conference, which likely makes them a top 7 or 8 team in the NBA, because the Eastern Conference is abysmal, right? No disrespect to the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They look legit. But outside of those 2 teams, it's hit or miss, man. At least right now it is. Obviously, things can change. So Memphis is probably a top 7 or 8 team in the NBA right now, which puts them in the top 5 in the West. I'm buying that. I think they're going to stick around in that because health is going to continue to return. Speaking of returning after a 1-game absence, we'll talk more about this later. Ja Morant likely be back in the fold for Friday's game, today's game, tonight's game. I'm buying that. I'm also buying this concept of pace. I'm buying it. The Grizzlies currently play with the number 2 pace in the entire National Basketball Association. 104 is that pace number. That's really staggering in terms of the way that they are running up and down the court. And it's really impressive because it has led them to what would be at this point of the season. And again, lots of basketball still to be played. The best, most efficient, maybe is the best way to put it, Grizzlies offense in the history of the Memphis Grizzlies, which is a staggering thing to say out loud, but it is at this time true. The Memphis Grizzlies really are doing some things that nobody has ever done before in Memphis in terms of playing and scoring while playing with pace and still maintaining their defensive excellence. Because that's been a big key. Can Memphis find a way to improve their offensive execution, especially in the half court, while maintaining their strong defense? In the Taylor Jenkins era, the Grizzlies have been a top 10 defense 4 of the 6 seasons, counting right now. And the Memphis Grizzlies the Memphis Grizzlies defense as of this moment is the best that it has ever been under Taylor Jenkins. They're giving up 109.3 points per possession defensively. That would put them 6th in the NBA as we speak. Their offense, they're scoring 118.1 points per 100 possessions. That puts them in 5th. So they have a top 5 and a top 6, according to Cleaning the Glass. Offense and defense as of this recording. I'm not necessarily buying that they're going to stay in those spaces. I could see some flow, right? Some ebbs and valleys when it comes to those efficiency numbers. What I am going to buy is the importance of depth for this Grizzlies team. And it might be for the first time, and it pains me to say this, dear listener, dear viewer, I'm not sure how much armchair GM trading you're going to get from me this year, because I don't know that I see the benefit. We talk so much about how fast they're playing and how it's working for them. They are not sacrificing defense to push the pace offensively and get these extra possessions and score the basketball in that way. They are doing both, and it's taking a remarkable amount of energy. And that is part of their logic in terms of playing all these guys and giving them these minutes, having a season where up until this point, no Memphis Grizzlies player, and this is wild to say, having followed this team as long as I have, no Memphis Grizzlies player at this time is averaging more than 28.4 minutes per game. And that guy is Jaren Jackson Jr. He's right at 28.4, so I should rephrase. Nobody is averaging more than 28.4 minutes per game for this entire team. You have got guys, I want to stress this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 12 guys that have played at least 10 games. 12 guys that have played at least 10 games. And of those guys, you are looking at 11 that have played at least 13 minutes. So this is a legitimate 11 to 12-man rotation right now. And it's hard for me to, in my old school mind, buy that because theoretically speaking, your best players should be out on the court the most. And I do think that you still have 3 guys that fit that bill. Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. for sure. Desmond Bane currently struggling a little bit. I'll talk more about him here momentarily. But Desmond Bane's still that 3rd guy. After that, there's a drop-off. Does it make sense to play Jaren, Ja, and Dez 30 minutes a game? And then everybody else is right there around 22 or so, but they are flying around the freaking basketball court. They're playing with pace. They're pushing the tempo. Maybe it does make sense. Because who are you sitting in this rotation right now? Are you sitting Jake LaRavia? Jake LaRavia is playing some inspired basketball. He's doing remarkable things. Brandon Clark just played one of his better games on Wednesday night. Are you going to sit him? I don't think that makes sense. So when you look at this Grizzlies team and you see what's in front of them, you have to ask yourself, who do you bench as the team gets healthy? That question is going to get harder and harder to answer as Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams Jr. return, Zach Edey. But you don't have to answer that question right now. All you have coming back is Ja, and he's obviously going to play. So I am buying the fact that the Grizzlies are a top 5 team in the Western Conference. I think that sticks. And I am buying the importance of pace and depth to their offensive success while not sacrificing defensive productivity. Hit me up on X at Joe Mullinax. Hit me up in the comments. What are you buying on this Black Friday when it comes to the Grizzlies? Or do you disagree or agree with the two items that I am sticking around with Memphis? When we come back on the podcast, we're going to talk about things that I'm selling, things that will not be sticking around. Make sure you stick around to hear what they are. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by the good folks over at, Skylight Frames. Skylight Frames. Want to celebrate with and stay connected to people who are far away, missing someone this holiday season, and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Do your loved ones live super far and they cannot be close to you and you wish that they could be? We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It is extremely easy to use. It literally takes 60 seconds to set this thing up. You can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. There's no account, no subscription required. And it looks absolutely beautiful in your home. Photos are displayed in HD resolution, and you can choose from 5 different frame styles. You can set it up in portrait and or landscape mode. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. So I bought pace and depth. Right? I buy that that's sticking around for these Grizzlies, and I buy that as a result of that, the Grizzlies will stay a top 5 team in the Western Conference. I don't think they're going anywhere. Buying all that. They can certainly move up. I don't see them falling below 5. I just don't, because they're playing that well, and they are still not even at full strength. Some things that I'm selling, some things that I don't think are going to continue to happen. And number one, and I sound like a broken record, number one is the struggles of Desmond Bane. I refuse to believe, dear listener, dear viewer, that Desmond Bane is going to continue to put up numbers that, if they were to stick, would be a career worst. Okay. Desmond Bane has played 12 games so far this season. Across those 12 games, again, this is per Cleaning the Glass, he is currently, scoring 105.5 points per 100 shot attempts. That includes when he is fouled in the bonus. Field goal attempts, trips to the free throw line are also included. That would be the worst of his career if it were to stick around by about 14 points, 13.7 to be exact. Desmond Bane, even in his rookie season, was scoring 119.8 points per shot, per 100 shot attempts. Last season, he was 119.2. The season before that, his best season, 123.2. You're probably getting the gist of what I'm trying to say. Desmond Bane is struggling right now. No doubt. I'm not going to try to pretend that he's not. That's not entirely fair to the guys that are playing well, right? But his struggles are so out of character. His effective field goal percentage, again, per Cleaning the Glass, 48.7. That is almost 7 entire points lower than what he did last season. He's shooting 31% from 3. Do you really think that's going to continue? 42% his rookie year, 44% his sophomore season in the NBA, 41% the season after that, 39% last year. What is the larger sample size? Him being a bad scorer, like he's been in 12 games played this season? Or the fact that in the previous, 200 games before that, he was one of the best three-point shooters at his age and state of his NBA career in the history of the National Basketball Association. Which one do you think is going to stick around? I'm going to take the larger sample size. And it makes it all the more impressive that Memphis has this 12-7 record going into tonight's game with the Pelicans, considering how poorly Bane has played. So that's one of the things to be excited about. I am selling the continued struggles of one Desmond Bane. I don't think that is going to stick around, not even a little bit. One thing, and I am breaking my own rule here with this tone of this episode. One thing that I'm selling that I'm afraid is going to stick around, I'm just selling it because I don't like it, is the turnover percentage. The Memphis Grizzlies are really struggling in terms of turnover percentage, 16.6%. That has them at 25th in the National Basketball Association. That's bad. That's low. And I don't see how that improves when you're playing the pace that you're currently playing, because naturally, with more possessions, there will be more turnovers, right? That just stands to reason. Basic logic would suggest that is indeed the case. Now, who are the biggest offenders of this? Who are the ones that are struggling the most with their turnover rate? Unfortunately, it's not just one guy. It would be super easy if you could just point at somebody and say, oh, that guy's the problem there. Let's get him out. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. You currently have 3 players in particular who have a turnover percentage, how often they turn the ball over when using a possession, according to Cleaning the Glass, over 15, or excuse me, have 5 over 15%. John Conchar, he's only played 107 minutes, so it's really hard to be super critical of Conchar. You know how I love to be critical of John Conchar. Zach Edey, who has played a lot. He's been out lately due to an injury, but Edey will eventually return. He's got to get that cleaned up, those turnovers, even for a big. Marcus Smart, as excited as everybody was about the way Smart played on Wednesday, he has to clean up those turnovers, and I think he will as he gets more settled into his reserve role. I'm going to skip the guy that I'm most concerned with and go to Jake LaRavia. His assist rate is obscenely high at 15.5%. But he's doing so many other things well, and he is creating offense for others at a really high rate. It's hard to be too hard on LaRavia as well. The one that makes me the most nervous is Ja Morant. Ja Morant, 15.8% turnover rate. And the reason that I'm concerned about this, I'm not trying to be hard on Ja just to be hard on Ja. The reason I'm concerned, it is the highest of his career. Even in his rookie campaign, he was at 15%. So he's doing this more than he ever has, turning the ball over in any given possession. 15.8% of the time, a possession ends in a turnover. That number has to go down. Because even with all of the excitement about the ball moving faster and guys initiating offense in unique, different ways, that's all fair and well and good. When Ja Morant's on the court, he's going to have the freaking ball in his hands. And this is not to say that Ja Morant is a terrible passer, because obviously he's not, right? I watch the games just like you do. I see the highlights. I know what Morant is capable of. I've been watching him play since his rookie season. He is a good passer, but he has to be more careful with the basketball. How do I know that it's possible? Because aside from his rookie campaign, this is out of character for him. In his sophomore season in the NBA, again, all stats provided here are per Cleaning the Glass, 13.6% in 2020-2021. The last 3 years, he has fluctuated between 10.9 and 11.9%. That is average to above average among NBA point guards. That's pretty freaking good, especially when we consider the fact that he is constantly in the highest percentages for usage. And he oftentimes has one of the highest elitist percentages, most elite percentages, when it comes to assist percentage. And that's still true of him this season. He is literally number 1 in the entire NBA in assist percentage. That's fantastic. He has to protect the basketball. He has to make better decisions. And I think that will come again with the opportunity for him to play with more pace and be on the court more consistently. We have to remember, we haven't seen a ton of Ja this season, right? He's only played 245 minutes so far, and that's across 9 games played. For comparison's sake, last season, he also played 9 games, obviously, you remember, I'm sure. And in those 9 games, he played 318 minutes. So that acknowledgement of pace, obviously injuries have thrown it off a little bit as well. But he's not on the court as much as he has been in the past. As he gets into a consistent rhythm, not being in and out of the lineup, I think we'll see that turnover number go down a little bit. And that will mean extra possessions for this Grizzlies offense, and that will mean more opportunities to score points for not just himself, but also for Desmond Bane and others. So that's what I'm selling from this team. I'm selling Desmond Bane continuing to struggle. That's not going to be something that keeps happening. And I'm also selling in a different way the turnover rate. Understanding that when you have the ball more and you push the pace like they do, there are going to be an increased rate of turnovers. But especially when it comes to guys like Ja Morant, Scottie Pippen Jr. is not innocent either. You have to be in a spot to make better choices with the basketball. You lose a possession here or there playing as fast as you do. I get it. But this Grizzlies offense, I'm still always going to side on the need to protect the ball because you need as many possessions and opportunities to score as you can, especially as things get slowed down and more half court in the playoffs. It's kind of a myth that the pace completely slows down in the playoffs. There's all sorts of research that's been done that suggests that the pace kind of stays the same. But there's a lot more half-court set and execution, possession by possession, attention to detail, and obviously there's a lot more scouting. When you're in those spots, you got to protect the ball. That's what I'd like to see from Ja Morant heading in to tonight and beyond. Let me know what you guys think on X and in the comments. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we'll close out this episode. It's the Cup, brother! Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, NBA Cup action. What you gonna do? We're going to preview it next here on Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Maybe you got a hunch in the middle of yesterday's game that the Chicago Bulls and their head coach, or not Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Bears and their head coach were going to make another boneheaded decision in crunch time, and you thought that the Lions were going to squeeze it out. That's exactly what happened. The Chicago Bears finding new ways to lose this season. Maybe you saw that coming thanks to a hunch. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We close out this episode talking about Grizzlies Pelicans, and it's a game that people will pretend is more important because it's a cup game, brother. But it's not. It's not more important. It's just a regular old basketball game between these two teams. The court will look a little bit different. They might wear different uniforms and those sorts of things. But it's Grizzlies Pelicans. It's a game that matters regardless of the NBA Cup. And the Grizzlies, for all intents and purposes, maybe not mathematically eliminated from going out to Vegas and playing in this tournament style thing that they do with the NBA Cup, knockout stage or whatever it's called. Memphis isn't mathematically eliminated. They could theoretically still make it, but it's going to be really hard for them to get there. And you know who's not crying over it? Me. I could care less if they make it out to Vegas again. Like I said before, the reason I want them to go to Vegas is I want my wonderful partner, to Michael Cole, the Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. I want him to go out there and cover it and have some fun. That's what I want for DeMichael. That's the only reason I care if the Grizzlies win the NBA Cup or not. And it's nice to see them compete and try a little bit harder maybe this time of the year. I'll give folks that. The Pelicans are a team that has been dealing with injuries even worse than Memphis so far this season, but they have been getting healthier of late. This is the most up-to-date injury report. Jamal Cain, Jordan Hawkins, Brandon Ingram, and Trey Murphy, the last two perhaps being a little more significant than the first, are all questionable for the game tonight against Memphis in Memphis. Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, and Carlo Matkovic are all out for the Pelicans. For the Grizzlies, Ja Morant is probable to play in this game. You rarely see a probable, so that means Memphis, unless something goes terribly wrong, is planning on having Ja Morant out there for the contest. Of course, Zach Edey, Vince Williams Jr., and Gigi Jackson all remain out. The Pelicans are 4-15, and they come into this contest playing not great basketball. They lost to the Toronto Raptors the last time out. Their starting lineup: DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Brandon Boston, Javonte Green, Yves Missy. All right, Messi. Not the best lineup for them to start off a contest. And again, with Ja Morant back in the fold, you would imagine a Ja, Desmond Bane, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark situation seems likely, right? That's something to be excited about if you're a Grizzlies fan, because that should be a starting lineup that runs past what New Orleans is working with. Now, questionable means it's 50-50. If Trey Murphy and Brandon Ingram do indeed play, Obviously, that changes the calculus a little bit. Brandon Ingram has been a difficult guard for the Grizzlies in the past because of his length and size and ability to score the ball. Trey Murphy, also known as the one that could have been a Grizzly if it weren't for Zaire Williams, maybe. Trey Murphy doing phenomenal work on or beyond the arc per usual, or at least he has that threat. He has that range to be a threat for the Pelicans. Just signed a nice contract extension because of his skill that he's displayed during his time in NOLA. If those two guys play, changes the calculus. But they miss Jose Alvarado. They miss Herb Jones, a tremendous defender, and obviously Zion Williamson's still out. If Zion's in there and right, this Pelicans team can beat just about anybody in the NBA, but he will not be in there. The Grizzlies are the healthier team at this stage. The Grizzlies are the hotter team in terms of how they're competing, how they are doing things as an organization, the way that they're running. We talked about pace earlier, the way that they're executing. The Grizzlies are on a 4-game winning streak. They have won 5 of their last 6. Everything lines up for this to be a game that the Grizzlies should win. Okay. What could slow Memphis down? A variety of things. We talked about the turnover issue. If they give the Pelicans a lot more opportunity to get out there and score and do things with the basketball, and Memphis loses those chances, that could be a major issue. On the flip side, the Grizzlies, if they find themselves unable to get Desmond Bane going, where do they get their three-point production? Who lights it up from beyond the arc for Memphis in this contest? Obviously, in the game against the Detroit Pistons, that wasn't as much of an issue, right? You had guys coming off the bench like Jake LaRavia, Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's probably not going to shoot 7 of 11 from beyond the arc again, right? Probably not going to happen. Jake LaRavia is probably not going to shoot 3 for 4 again. So you need your 2 best three-point shooters that are among the big 3, because Ja Morant's not included in that, Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., to not go 0 for 10 from beyond the arc. You need to have consistent three-point production. The Pelicans have the capacity to get hot from beyond the arc. They have the capacity, especially CJ McCollum, to be a Grizz killer, go on runs, and that kind of energy can be difficult to stop if you're not able to get open looks, set your feet, and really prioritize hitting those buckets off of those assists. And that's a big key to this for the Grizzlies as well. Against the Pistons, 31 assists on 51 made shots. You want to keep that assist number up over 30. When Memphis gets that number over 30, they have a tendency to have a lot more success in terms of their offense. Less dribble, and try to drive on your own, less isolation ball, continuing the prioritization of getting to the basket and getting the ball moving on the perimeter and finding not just a good shot, but a great shot. Memphis has the capacity to do that for sure, and I think that that will be something that against this Pelicans team that has lost their last 6 games, a Pelicans team that is 1-8 on the road so far this season, it's hard for me to see them do something against this Grizzlies team when they just lost by 26 against the Toronto Raptors, when they just struggled with defending the likes of Jamison Battle. No disrespect to Jamison Battle of the Toronto Raptors, but you probably didn't even know who Jamison Battle was until I just said his name. You almost certainly didn't know he played for the Toronto Raptors. You can't expect CJ McCollum and DeJounte Murray to shoot 12 of 37. That's probably not going to happen. The Pelicans are probably going to shoot a little bit better than that. But who else is going to provide them energy? Is it going to be an Elfrid Payton, who has been a real spark plug off the bench for them? Is it going to be somebody like a Jeremiah Robinson Earl, posting a double-double in reserve minutes for the New Orleans Pelicans? How are they going to piece it together? There is a much clearer path to the necessary production to win a basketball game at this stage for the Memphis Grizzlies than there is for the Pelicans. That is why Memphis is a double-digit favorite entering this game. That's why you should think the Grizzlies will win a matinee basketball game, right? 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, early basketball on this Friday, this Black Friday edition of Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans. NBA Cup, brother. Feel the passion, feel the excitement. Should be a win for the Memphis Grizzlies. And shout out to Ja Morant being back in the fold. More than likely, good news. Thank you so much for being with us on this episode of the podcast. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as over on our YouTube page, audio pages, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, literally anywhere you get a podcast, YouTube, of course, you can get Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you're making us a part of your everyday NBA Memphis Grizzlies media consumption. The next time that we will be together, we will have a Monday show for you, getting the month of December started off the right way. The Grizzlies, of course, have another matinee game on Sunday, taking on the Indiana Pacers at home. That'll be the last game of this homestand. I'm sure DeMichael and I will talk about both the Pelicans game and the Pacers game, and then look ahead to what's coming up in the week that will be for the Memphis Grizzlies. Make sure you're subscribing to the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Go to lockedondaily.com. That is lockedondaily.com. Subscribe. Check out all the great work that we're doing over as part of our newsletter. It is free. Get it sent to your inbox each and every single day. Thank you again for being with me on this episode of the show. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy a couple of great Grizzlies basketball games. Hopefully you're going to have a wonderful time with family and friends and get some rest, right? You've been working hard. Make sure you're taking care of yourself as well as those around you. I'm excited to watch Grizzlies basketball. I am Joe Mullinax. I will catch you next time here on Locked On Grizzlies. Have a good one.